I'm going to begin by reading from the first section of my long poem, You. It begins with the narrator, the poet, trying to imagine, trying to empathise with his wife's life before he met her, when she was a schoolgirl at a mission school in northern Nigeria. ECWA stands for Evangelical Church of West Africa. And he imagines the classroom and the teacher, working in English, of course. And on the wall there's this, as you often find, there's this lizard sort of sprawled against it, and he almost seems to be listening, as if he's empathising with everything that's going on. Of course he's not really, but it brings in the theme of empathy, which is one of the main themes of the poem, the possibility of empathy, or how far it is just imagination and how far that makes a difference. And then it goes on to describe a little about the classroom. And then she's coming home from school through the farmland, the guinea corn, very tall stalks of it going up. And she's, as rural children do, she's carrying her books on her head, which is a perfectly natural thing for her to do. She can't remember having ever learned how to do it. But if you ever try, you know, it's not something everyone can do. It's perhaps a cultural acquisition. But one of the interesting things, and another theme of the poem more widely, is that in fact the books she is carrying so naturally on her head are books in English, the language of former colonial power, and something which are in a sense remote from her and which have to be assimilated. And another theme in the poem is the difference between the two cultures of the I figure, who is English, and the you of the poem, who is Nigerian. The form of the poem, since it's a love poem, I thought it would be appropriate to go back to Chaucer's stanza in Troilus and Cresside, which is so-called rhyme royal, though I've adapted that a little. I've put it into half rhymes, and I've grouped the 7-line stanzas together in groups of 3, so there's a kind of 21-line super stanza. But the poem as such, although it's divided into stanzas, and you can very often take a group of 3 all together as a kind of unit, it is intended to flow from the beginning right to the end, not to be a series of chapters or sections, as it were. I use a fairly traditional metre, partly because I wanted to not go back and be traditional in a negative sense, but I wanted to, what I want to do is to think again about metrical form and perhaps see it in a more metaphorical way, perhaps as an image of language as such, and of the way in which language has imposed limits on the way we're able to experience the world. Just as in the traditional so-called iambic line, the di-dum, 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 this is really no more than a reshaping, a stylization of the ordinary rhythm of conversational English, where the stresses will tend to fall at natural, regular intervals anyway. So I'll begin with the first section of the poem. And there's the ECWA school, and that's Miss Bossy turning at her wall map of the ancient trade routes that the Boozous used to cross. All that blank sand she tries with so much passion in her English to make real beyond the blowing doorcloth, and the lizard sprawled out flat and still and listening on the wall, as if its nodding birthmark indigo and orange head nodded in empathy with her, with you, your letters traced into a tray of sand, your hush in Jesus' holy name, your walk back home on paths through guinea corn, the floating pile of textbooks balanced on your head, with all the nonchalance that comes of something learnt and then forgotten that it has been, like the history of who the person is lost in the person bearing it. Then, in the words, somebody tells the tale in. Then the mimicry inside the nerves of that. Its whispers to some inner, mouthed, imaginary you.